monitoring has to be continuous. This has to, people like the Karnataka group and all of us at the national PUCL level need to do it systematically, intermittently, so that we continue being the force that we ought to be. I now invite Arvind Narayan. Arvind, where are you? To take over to introduce our main speakers from Edelu, Karnataka, Bahutwa, Karnataka, and Hate Speech Beda. We welcome all of you for helping us out and sharing your views, your thoughts, your experiences, the challenges that you all faced. We would particularly like to thank from the Edelu, Yusuf Kani Malige and Saraswati, from Bahutwa, Karnataka, Vinay Srinivas and Janaki, from the Dalit Writers Forum. I'm sorry, I should have welcomed them also. The Dalit Writers Forum, Murthy and Vikas Maurya, and from the Campaign Against Hate Speech, Manvi and Shilpa. Our host is Aishwarya. So any messages on, please put on chat, please put your emails and phone numbers for future discussions on chat, and you can message individually to me or Aishwarya or Manvi. Go ahead, Arvind. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kavita, for that, for introducing the entire PUCL dialogues and for providing us the platform to talk about what was going on, what went on in Karnataka. And I think the point I want to begin by stating is, what is the role that civil society can play in an election? What is the role that civil society should play in an election? After all, civil society groups are not political society. So why are they even interested, involved in the question of the election? And I think that's a question which we'll try and answer in the course of the next hour or so. And I want to begin by stating that fundamentally, I think the way Karnataka group saw it is that we had in place a certain kind of a political force or a political power or political party, which fundamentally challenged constitutional values and the rule of law. And that was the context in which civil society had to respond. I'll give a couple of quick examples of what is the challenge posed to the entire question of constitutional values and the rule of law by the previous BJP administration. And we began really when Mr. Bommai took charge in July of 2021. And if we, for those who are outside Karnataka, the starting point was really when he was asked a question on how do you respond to the question of moral policing in Dakshin Kannada. And his response was the Newtonian law of action and reaction. He said, for every action, there's an equal and an opposite reaction. And obviously something must have gone wrong. That's why people responded in that particular way. So in a sense, from the moment he took charge, he gave a signal that as far as Karnataka is concerned, vigilante forces have to run. There's nothing to stop a grouping which takes the law into its own hands. That was the starting point. And immediately after that, almost immediately after that, in September of 2021, we had the question of the attacks on churches or places of worship around Karnataka. Again, when you talk about a threat to constitutional values, a very, very fundamental, very, very important point. Because what we saw is that churches were attacked because of the fact that people chose to profess and practice the religion of their choice. Again, the language of the Constitution, Article 25, is profess, practice, and propagate. And the PUCL report made the point that what was really being attacked when 30 plus churches were attacked is the right of people to profess and practice the religion of their faith. And again, you would imagine that, this is something which would put any government on the defensive. But this government, what they did is when the attacks happened, they doubled down and they passed what they call a freedom of religion law, which was a law which criminalized the practice of faith. And that's again the important point to make, where the entire question of charitable works by Christian community in particular were targeted under the law as allurement. The right to freedom of faith was targeted under the false notion that we're targeting illegal conversions. So the government really went on from from strength to strength in this particular sense of targeting a range of constitutional rights, right? And I think the point I really want to make to before handing it over to my friends and colleagues is to say that what we saw in Karnataka was really an attack on the rule of law and an attack on constitutional values. To something which we're not used to in the Karnataka context in quite the strong way in which it emerged in the last 4 years. So the question before all of us is the elections is coming up. What do you do in the context of the elections? Is there a way in which the elections can provide an answer to this sustained and direct attack on constitutional values as well as the rule of law? That was the question which was there before us. And in that particular context, we have 4 groups which really did, I think, absolutely remarkable work in the context of saying, how do we take forward this entire struggle for constitutional values in the context of the elections? And that the 4 groups were the Yaddelu Karnataka, Bahutva Karnataka, the Dalit Writers Forum, as well as the Campaign Against Hate Speech. So we can maybe begin with Yaddelu Karnataka. And the question that I'd begin by asking, I think Mr. Kani will begin, if I'm right. Mr. Kani will begin speaking. And the question we want to ask is, why did Yaddelu form? What was the impetus of the formation of Yaddelu? And what is the work that Yaddelu Karnataka did? Mr. Kani, will you be speaking or Malike will begin?
Hi Arvind, I think Maulana ji will speak now.
Okay, please.
जी सर, मैं हिंदी में बात करूँ ना?
Please. बिल्कुल हिंदी में बोलिए. Do we have translation facility, Arvind?
No, it's fine, no problem. Hindi is fine.
You don't need translation.
No, it's fine.
We will understand. Okay.
जी, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया आपने मुझे इस प्रोग्राम में बुलाया है. सबका मैं शुक्रिया अदा करता हूँ. बहुत खुशी होती है कर्नाटक के इलेक्शन के बाद, और मैं समझता हूँ कि ये पहली हमारी एक मीटिंग हो रही है ऑनलाइन, जिसमें यद्येलू कर्नाटका, बहुत्व कर्नाटका और हेट स्पीच के खिलाफ जो लोग काम कर रहे हैं, उन सबको आपने एक साथ बुलाया है. मैं समझता हूँ कि कर्नाटक के इलेक्शन के बाद दिस इज फर्स्ट मीटिंग. बहुत शुक्रिया. मैं चंद बातें आपके सामने पेश करता हूँ. पहली बात तो ये है कि कर्नाटक के एक बहुत ही शांतिपूर्ण राज्य हम कह सकते हैं. यहाँ अनेक धर्म के लोग रहते हैं. हमारे अपने स्टडी के मुताबिक 16 बड़े धर्म यहाँ पे हैं, और धार्मिक नेता जो है वो लोगों के अंदर शांति, सौहार्दता, इसकी ज्यादा वो बातचीत करते हैं और लोगों को यही संदेश भी देते रहते हैं. और यहाँ जितने भी धर्म के लोग हैं वो सब मिलजुल के रहते हैं. और आपको मालूम होगा कि सूफी संतों का राज्य भी हम कह सकते हैं कर्नाटक को. यहाँ हिंदू धर्म के लोग भी, इस्लाम धर्म है, क्रिश्चियनिटी है, और अनेक धर्म जितने भी हैं, वो सब धर्म गुरु और धर्म नेता वो एक साथ मिलजुल करके रहना, तो भाईचारा कर्नाटक के अंदर एक बहुत बड़ी उसकी पहचान है. आपको मालूम होगा कि यहाँ लोगों में बड़ी हमदर्दी और प्यार भी है. एक दूसरे से बहुत मोहब्बत करते हैं लोग यहाँ पे, और वो अपने धर्म पर चलते हुए दूसरे धर्म का आदर भी करते हैं, उसका रेस्पेक्ट भी करते हैं धर्म को. एक वातावरण पूरे कर्नाटक का है. एक दूसरी बात मैं आपको बताऊं कि कर्नाटक राज्य में एजुकेशन की हद तक अगर आप देखें तो लोग एजुकेट हैं, कि यहाँ धर्म को पहचानते हैं, राजकीय लोगों को पहचानते हैं, कैसे सोसाइटी बन रही इससे पहचानते हैं, लोगों को पहचानते हैं. एक अच्छा वातावरण कर्नाटक का है इस वक्त हमारे पास. ये पहले से भी चल रहा है और अभी वो कर्नाटक में हम कह सकते हैं कि बाकी और बरकरार है. आपको मालूम होगा कि ये पिछले 2020 के बिगिनिंग में जब सीएए और एनआरसी का पूरे मुल्क के अंदर जब ये एक मसला चल रहा था, ऐसे मौके पर जितने भी यहाँ पे सिविल सोसाइटीज हैं, जो लोग इस वक्त यद्येलू कर्नाटका हो या बहुत्व कर्नाटका हो, जहां जहां भी लोग इस वक्त इकट्ठा हुए हैं, ये सब के सब ऑर्गेनाइजेशन 2020 के बिगिनिंग में सीएए और एनआरसी के मौके पर जो काम हो रहे थे पूरे मुल्क में भी, हमारे अपने राज्य में भी बहुत महत्वपूर्ण हम कह सकते हैं कि सोसाइटी, सिविल सोसाइटी मिलजुल करके उन्होंने उसका अपोज किया था पूरे राज्य में। आपको मालूम होगा कि कर्नाटक के 300 प्लेस पे बड़े प्रोटेस्ट हुए थे, सिविल सोसाइटी ने ऑर्डर किया था एनआरसी और सीए के खिलाफ में, अगेंस्ट में 300 बिग सिटीज और तालुका हेडक्वार्टर से हमने उसके एक बड़े रैली और इस तरह का प्रोग्राम हमने ऑर्गेनाइज किया था पूरे सोसाइटी, सिविल सोसाइटी मिल करके। और मेरा अंदाजा ये है कि 50 लाख से ज्यादा लोग रोड पर आए थे और वो खालिफत उन्होंने की थी और कहा था कि हमें सीए और एनआरसी के इस तरह की ये नहीं होना चाहिए। तब से हम कह सकते हैं कि राज्य में जितने सिविल सोसाइटी, धार्मिक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन हैं, ये सब मिलजुल करके कुछ काम कर रहे थे, आगे बढ़ रहे थे। ऐसे मौके पर बीजेपी की जो यहाँ हुकूमत थी, हम समझते हैं कि उनको हुकूमत चलाने के लिए नहीं आया। उनको एक तो मेजॉरिटी नहीं थी, 2018 में उनका जो रिजल्ट मिला था वो मेजॉरिटी में नहीं थी। 104 सीट पर उनके वो विन हो गए थे। दल बदली उधर इधर करके उन्होंने अपने एक मेजॉरिटी बना लेकर हुकूमत उन्होंने बना दी, लेकिन वो हुकूमत चला नहीं सकी। हुकूमत चला सकते थे लेकिन चला नहीं सकते। वो कर्नाटक राज्य में रहते हुए कर्नाटक की जनता के हित में कोई बड़ा फैसला उन्होंने नहीं किया। आप देखेंगे कि 4 साल उनको जो मौका मिला है, जो काम करने का मौका मिला था, मैं कह सकता हूं कि 16 ऐसे उनके डिसीजन है, कैबिनेट डिसीजन कह सकते हैं और उनके हुकूमत के फैसले हम कह सकते हैं। वो जितने भी डिसीजन उन्होंने लिया है वो देश के या यहाँ के जनता के हित में उनका कोई फैसला नहीं था, बल्कि हम कह सकते हैं कि उन्होंने जितने बड़े डिसीजन लिए हैं वो जनता के खिलाफ पूरे उनके डिसीजन के हैं। मैं एक दो आपको एग्जांपल पेश करता हूं इस मौके पे। अगर आप ये देखें कि यहाँ जितने राइट लोग हमारे फार्मर्स हैं, फार्मर्स के लिए उन्होंने पूरे कर्नाटक में कुछ नहीं किया, कोई काम नहीं किया। फार्मर्स यहाँ के बोलते रहे, अपील करते रहे, धरना देते रहे, प्रोटेस्ट करते रहे और ये जो लोग भी हुकूमत में है उन लोगों से मिलते रहे, बातचीत करते रहे, लेकिन उन्होंने कोई एक प्रॉब्लम भी यहाँ की जो फार्मर्स है कर्नाटक राज्य के, एक भी उनका प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व नहीं किया। और आपको मालूम होगा कि जो भी उन्होंने काम किया फार्मर्स के मुखालिफ में जाने वाले पूरे कामों को किया, जिस वजह से फार्मर्स के अंदर भी एक तरह का गुस्सा था उनके खिलाफ और वो चाहते थे कि इस तरह की हुकूमत कर्नाटक के अंदर नहीं रहना चाहिए। ये काम हमारा सोसाइटी का अंग है, हमारा दलित हमारे जो भाई हैं। आप देखिए कि दलितों पर पूरे कर्नाटक के अंदर अत्याचार होता रहा, उन पर उनके खिलाफ उनके वो महिलाएं हैं, उनके बच्चे हैं, पूरे कर्नाटक के अंदर आप देखेंगे कि प्रिंट मीडिया में, इलेक्ट्रॉनिक मीडिया के अंदर, सोशल मीडिया के अंदर भी कई ऐसे हम उनके काम हमने देखा और सुना भी है, देखा भी है कि ये दलितों के खिलाफ उन्होंने बहुत सारे कामों को किया, दलितों के लिए कोई खास काम उन्होंने नहीं किया। एक मैं रुक कर करूंगा क्योंकि टाइम बहुत कम रहता है, तो मैं इसे बहुत कम करके बताऊंगा। पूरे राज्य के अंदर बीजेपी की जो हुकूमत रही है, 4 साल की हुकूमत जो रही, इस 4 साल के पूरे अरसे के अंदर वो एक भी कम्युनिटी के लिए उन्होंने कोई काम ऐसा नहीं किया जिससे वो कम्युनिटी ने ये कहा हो कि इस गवर्नमेंट का मतलब कुछ काम किया है। एक भी कम्युनिटी पूरे राज्य के अंदर 4 साल का जो उनको अवकाश मिला था ये हुकूमत करने का, तो 4 साल के पूरे पीरियड के अंदर कोई एक भी कम्युनिटी संतुष्ट उनसे नहीं है। और कोई कम्युनिटी ये नहीं कह सकती थी और नहीं कहेगी कि बीजेपी की हुकूमत ने इनके राज्यकाल के अंदर हम लोगों के लिए या हमारे समाज के लिए, हमारे हित में उन्होंने बहुत अच्छा काम किया है। कोई एक भी कम्युनिटी इस तरह कहते हुए आपको नहीं मिलेगी। तो ऐसे वातावरण में जबकि इस तरह की जो स्थिति थी, जो हालात इस तरह के बने हुए थे और जितने भी डिसीजन ले रहे थे वो सिविल सोसाइटी के खिलाफ में जा रहे थे, बहुत सारे डिसीजन उन्होंने लिया। ऐसे मौके पर ये मुनासिब समझा गया कि इस मर्तबा जितने भी सिविल सोसाइटी के लोग हैं या धार्मिक संगठन है जितने भी, इन सबको हम इन सबसे बातचीत करेंगे कि हमारा जो अपना जो राज्य है, शांतिपूर्ण राज्य भी है, यहाँ सौहार्दता है, प्रगति की ओर जाना चाहते हैं, उन्नति की बात हम करते हैं, मिलजुल कर रहने की बात हम करते हैं और समाज लोगों के लिए यहाँ पर हक का, इंसाफ का और उन लोगों के लिए संतुष्ट होने के लिए जो काम होना चाहिए, इस तरह का वातावरण कर्नाटक के अंदर बनाने की जरूरत है। तो इसके लिए आपको मालूम होगा कि आपको हम कह सकते हैं कि 8 महीने पहले अगस्त से हम कहते हैं 2002 से 22 से हम कह सकते हैं, अगस्त से हमने लोगों से मिलना, एक दूसरे से मिलना और बातचीत करने का हमने काम शुरू किया था। उसी का हम वो जो काम 8 महीने पहले जो काम हमने शुरू किया था, मैं कुछ और बातें मैं आपको बताऊंगा इस सिलसिले में। उस वक्त जो हमने काम शुरू किया था वो आज हम देखते हैं कि ये सरकार को बदलने में हमारा भी एक बहुत बड़ी भूमिका है, बहुत बड़ा पात्र हमारा है, जो सरकार को हमने बदल के रख दिया है। मैं आपसे ये कहूंगा कि एक तो ये कि हम बहुत सीरियस थे, जितने भी सिविल सोसाइटीज हैं, धार्मिक जितने संगठन हैं, ये सब के सब सीरियस इस बात सीरियस इसलिए सीरियस थे वो कि हम किसी भी सूरत में हुकूमत को बदलना चाहते हैं। हमने कहा कि इस हुकूमत को बदलना चाहिए। उसके लिए मैं आपसे कहूंगा कि सबसे पहला जो काम ये सिविल सोसाइटी जितने भी हैं, 112 हम कह सकते हैं, इतने पूरे सिविल सोसाइटीज और धार्मिक संगठन सब मिलजुल करके जिन कामों को बहुत सीरियस लिया, जो काम करना हमने तय किया था वो ये था, क्या हम सब मिलजुल करके सरकार को बदल सकते हैं। जबकि अंदाजा ये था कि ये सरकार बहुत ही मजबूत है और जिस तरह का वातावरण उन्होंने कर्नाटक के अंदर के बना रखा है, जैसे हालात बने हुए हैं और जिस तरह के वो डिसीजन ले रहे हैं,
Mr. Curry, sorry for coming in. We can expand more in the question and answer session because more speakers coming in as well. Possible to just finish in 2 lines and then we'll just give it to the next person.
ठीक है, मैं बात खत्म कर देता हूँ।
Thank you, Mr.
बस मैं इतनी बात कहूंगा कि 112 ऑर्गेनाइजेशन से मिलजुल करके सरकार को बदलने के लिए जो निश्चित रूप से लोगों ने काम किया पूरे कर्नाटक के अंदर, उसकी जो भूमिका रही है, और ये अब हम महसूस कर सकते हैं, अब हम जानते हैं कि अगर ये सिविल सोसाइटी एकजुट होकर के किसी भी सरकार को बदलने का अगर वो आदमी करते हैं, फैसला करते हैं, बड़े आसानी से बदला जा सकता है। हमने बूथ लेवल पे काम किया है, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन को सेलेक्ट करके हमने काम किया है। लास्ट टाइम जो बीजेपी का बहुत ही थिन मार्जिन के साथ जो लोग विन हुए थे, वहां हमने काम किया है। और कांग्रेस के जनता दल के वो एमएलए जो बहुत ही थिन मार्जिन से विन हो गए थे, वहां हमने काम किया है। 103 कॉन्स्टिट्यूंसी पे फोकस करके जो हमने काम किया है, उसमें से मुझे ये बताते हुए खुशी होगी कि 73 कॉन्स्टिट्यूंसी के अंदर हम लोग कामयाब हुए हैं। बस मैं इतनी बात नहीं कहूंगा, अगर क्वेश्चन आंसर के अंदर कोई बात आती है तो मैं कुछ तफसीलात में आपके सामने रखूंगा। बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया।
Thank you, Mr. Kani. Kavita, would you do a quick translation possibly?
Arvind, I'll just quickly come into it. So Rishit said that. Yeah, I'll just quickly do it.
Go ahead, yeah.
He's basically made 6 major points. One part of the translation Aishwarya had already put on chat, which is to say that Karnataka is largely a peaceful state. People from different religions and different communities live here very peacefully, and there's a lot of love here, just generally also within the society. The second point he makes is that from 2019 itself, during the CA NRC time, the civil society played a huge role in providing space for dissent, and at every level there were protests, and there were large-scale protests in different districts as well. He also says that BJP did not have a majority as such, but that they had only 104 seats in 2018, and they could have governed despite this 104 seats share, but they did not run the government as they were supposed to do. All of the decisions that the BJP government took were against the people of Karnataka. And he gives the example specifically of farmers, that farmers were very, very angry in the state with the BJP government. The other example he gives is that of Dalits, the women and the children. And there was no work basically that was done in the whole of Karnataka for these communities. He also said that in these 4 years, in their conversations, not one community said that they had worked for us, and no one was satisfied with the BJP government. As the civil society, all of the civil society people decided that they wanted an environment of where rights could be claimed, and there was an environment of development, peace, and there could be possibility of fraternal living. And that is why there was a need to oppose from civil society against the BJP government. So from August, the work started. So about 8 months ago, before elections, the work had started. And the civil society, he's happy to share, that played a crucial role in changing this government. He says this because that there were serious 112 organizations that were committed to changing the fate of Karnataka and making it, giving it back to the people for pro-people decision making and governance. He also said the civil society worked at booth level in about 103 constituencies, and out of which he's happy to share that 73 constituencies they received success. So this is the brief translation.
Thanks, Mani, for the translation. We'll go to the second group, which is very active in the context of the elections, which is Bahutva Karnataka. And I think Vinay will come in on to address the question of why was Bahutva formed and what is the work that Bahutva did. Bahutva, by the way, means plural Karnataka. Vinay Srinivasa, are you here?
Vinay, you have to unmute.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Yes, thanks to PUCL for putting together this conversation. Eldrigu namaskara. Good evening, everybody. Bahutva Karnataka is a very broad coalition which was formed in late 2021. Bahutva Karnataka form ಮಾಡಿರೋ ಉದ್ದೇಶ ಏನಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, the reason it was formed was that Karnataka has a very rich pluralistic tradition, and we are the land of Basavana, we are the land of Akka Mahadevi, we are the land of Santa Shishunala Sharif, Mante Swami, and several progressive saints and traditions. But as Arvind mentioned in the beginning, with the BJP government, things were going from bad to worse, and it was not just the national level NRCCA, but even here, after Mr. Bommai's statement, violence increased. And there was the beheading of Mr. Arbaz in Belgaum and several such incidents. So we formed Bahutva Karnataka because we felt there is a need for a broad-based platform to uphold the plural traditions of Karnataka and to fight both casteism and communalism. We felt that we could not de-link casteism and communalism, and they come from the same place, the othering of a particular community. And that's why we found Bahutva Karnataka, Arvind. And we felt that there is a lot of work which is required, not just to resist the kind of hatred that was being spread, but also to do positive work to uphold our plural traditions and to remind people of these plural traditions, and to kind of, to build on the constitutional value of fraternity or bandhutva. A lot of the work of Bahutva Karnataka involves taking positive steps to uphold bandhutva and to build on it. Does that answer the question, Arvind?
Yeah. Do you also want to comment on some of the work which Bahutva has done?
Yeah. So one of the things which main things which Bahutva Karnataka did for elections was, around 5-6 months before the elections, we did call for a meeting of different groups, of all groups, civil society groups are here to see. We felt that from Bahutva, we have very low bandwidth ourselves to do any kind of ground-based work. But we felt that, it might be good to get everybody together to see if we can kind of coordinate some efforts at seeing at least everybody keeping each other informed of what work is happening for the elections. But that initiative didn't really take off. We had 1 or 2 meetings, but one of the things which we felt was, we want to bring out a report card on the performance of this Bommai government. And there were 2 reasons for bringing out this report card. One is, ಈ ಸರ್ಕಾರ ಯಾವ ತರ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಸಹ ತಿಳಿಸಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಮತ್ತೆ ಈ ಸರ್ಕಾರದಿಂದ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಅಕೌಂಟಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಪಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. We need to hold this government accountable for what they've done. And as citizens of this democracy, it's our duty, it's our right to hold the government accountable. Two, we speak a lot about fighting hate, and fighting hate just doesn't involve countering the hate and like fighting complaints, but it also involves making sure the narrative is focused on issues of constitutional values, issues of daily bread and butter, issues of education, issues of livelihood. So ಈ ಎರಡು ಕಾರಣಗಳಿಗೋಸ್ಕರ ನಾವು ರಿಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಕಾರ್ಡ್ಸ್ ತಗೊಂಡ್ ಬರೋಣ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೊಂಡ್ವಿ. We decided to bring out a series of report cards because of these issues. And so Janki Nair and Vasvi, they coordinated an effort where several people were roped in, several academics, experts, civil society activists were roped in to bring out a series of report cards. We brought out around 13 report cards on education, health, nutrition, federalism, minorities' rights, democracy, fiscal management, environment. So like this, we brought out 13 report cards. We'll also just put the link in the chat. And once we brought out the report cards, we also released each of the report cards one by one through a separate event. So for example, the first Bahutwa report card was on education. They gave the government an E grade, and we released it through a press meet. That press meet was very widely covered in the Kannada newspapers, the English newspapers, etc. And the narrative did focus then on like the several failures of this government in education. It's not just about hijab or the textbooks, but how the teacher vacancies were highest during this term. Karnataka has the highest number of teacher vacancies in government schools all India at 57.7%, or the privatization of education, both primary and higher education. Similarly, we brought out the report card on nutrition at an event on we do a Bahutwa Bhojana, where we bring different communities together and have different kinds of food belonging to different communities together. At one of those events, we released a nutrition report card, which focused on how even during the pandemic, nutrition in Karnataka has taken a hit, especially with the closure of Indira canteens. The fact that eggs were given only after a long and hard fight to school children, dry rations were not given to school children, etc. And we also tied up with different groups to release this report card so that they have a wider reach. The report card on slum residents' rights was done along with Slum Janandolana Karnataka. And this again ensured that like this report card reached several places. The report card on agriculture was released with a group called Nammura Bhumi Namagirli. It's also again a grassroots group. So this was some of the things we did, and these report cards were released on social media as well. And the content of the report card was made available to all civil society groups. So even Edelu Karnataka made posters based on some of the content of the report cards, and those posters were shared. Another of our friends made a campaign called Vote Wisely, and around 5 lakh pamphlets were printed with the contents of these report cards, and a website was launched called Vote Wisely. So these were some of the things that we did as far as the election was concerned.
Thanks, Vinay. Thanks, Vinay, for the sharing of the work Bahutwa did. And the question, I think, is what does Bahutwa mean? And as Vinay indicated, Bahutwa means plural Karnataka.
Yeah, plurality, pluralism.
Yeah. Now we will go across to the Dalit Writers Forum and Pulikunte Murthy. Nipan Matadi, Idira ನೀವು? Can we unmute Pulikunte Murthy? Yeah, super.
Okay. ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ. ನನ್ನ ಮಾತು ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ?
ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಾರೆ.
Sorry, I can't talk in English or any language.
Not to worry. Now Anuradha will translate. Don't worry. Please go.
Okay. ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ. ನಾನು ದಲಿತ ಸಂಘರ್ಷ ಸಮಿತಿಗಳ ಒಂದು ಚಾಲನಾ ಸಮಿತಿ ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ಒಕ್ಕೂಟ, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಒಟ್ಟು 10 ದಲಿತ ಸಂಘರ್ಷ ಸಮಿತಿಗಳು ಸೇರಿ ಒಂದು ಒಕ್ಕೂಟವನ್ನ ಈಗಾಗ್ಲೇ ಸುಮಾರು 10 ವರ್ಷಗಳ ಶ್ರಮದಿಂದ ಅವ್ರು ರಚನೆ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ರು. ಇತ್ತೀಚೆಗೆ 2 ವರ್ಷಗಳಿಂದ ಅದನ್ನ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಗಟ್ಟಿಗೊಳಿಸ್ಕೊಂಡು 10 ರಿಂದ 12 DSS ಗ್ರೂಪ್ಗಳನ್ನ ಒಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಮಾಡಿ ಒಂದು ಚಾಲನಾ ಸಮಿತಿ ಅಂತ ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಸೀನಿಯರ್ಸ್ ಯಾರ್ಯಾರು 1973 ನಲ್ಲಿ DSS ನ ಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು, ಅದರಲ್ಲಿದ್ದಂತಹ ತುಂಬಾ ಸೀನಿಯರ್ಸ್ ಅದನ್ನ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು. ನಾವು 2 ವರ್ಷದಿಂದ ಅದ್ರ ಜೊತೆ ನಾನು ವಿಕಾಸ್ ಮೌರ್ಯ ಮತ್ತೆ ತಮಟೆ ಮೀಡಿಯಾ ಅನ್ನೋ ಒಂದು ಗುಂಪು, ಸಣ್ಣ ಯಂಗ್ಸ್ಟರ್ಸ್ ಗುಂಪು ಅದ್ರ ಜೊತೆ ಇದೀವಿ. ಇದು ಆಕ್ಚುಲ್ ಆಗಿ ಎಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ಗೋಸ್ಕರ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದು ಗುಂಪಲ್ಲ, ಇದು ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಎಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ಸ್ಗೋಸ್ಕರ ಮಾಡಿದ ಗುಂಪಲ್ಲ. ಇದು ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದಲ್ಲಿ ದಲಿತರ ಮೇಲಿನ ದೌರ್ಜನ್ಯನ ತಡೆಯೋದಕ್ಕೆ, ಅದಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದಲ್ಲಿ ದಲಿತರ ಆಶೋತ್ತರಗಳಿಗೋಸ್ಕರ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ, ಮತ್ತು ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದ ದಲಿತರ ಬದುಕುಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾದ್ರೂ ಒಂದು ಹೊಸ ಆಲೋಚನೆಯನ್ನು ಬಿತ್ತಬೇಕು, ಮತ್ತೆ ಹಳೆಯ ದಲಿತ ಹೋರಾಟದ ಒಂದು ಶಕ್ತಿ ಬರ್ಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋ ಕಾರಣಕ್ಕಾಗಿ, ಎಲ್ರು ಒಟ್ಟಾಗ್ಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋ ಕಾರಣಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಇದನ್ನ ಹಿರಿಯರು ಎಲ್ಲ ಸೇರಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು. ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ದೇವನೂರು ಮಹಾದೇವ ಅವರಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಇಂದುಧರ್ ಹೊನ್ನಾಪುರ ಅವರು, ಎನ್ ವೆಂಕಟೇಶಣ್ಣ ಅವರು, ಮತ್ತೆ ಎನ್ ಮುನ್ಸ್ವಾಮಿ ಅವರು, ಗುರುಪ್ರಸಾದ್ ಕೆರಗೋಡ್ ಅವರು ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ಮಾವಳ್ಳಿ ಶಂಕರ್ ಅವರು ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ತುಂಬಾ ಜನ ಈ ತರದ ಹಿರಿಯರು ಸೇರಿ ಇದನ್ನ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು. ಬಟ್ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಇದು 2 ವರ್ಷದಿಂದ ಈಚೆಗೆ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದ 2023ನೇ ಎಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಅನ್ನ ಕಾನ್ಸಂಟ್ರೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ 2 ವರ್ಷದ ಹಿಂದೆನೆ ಇದ್ರ ಕಡೆ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಅವ್ರು ಶುರು ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು. ನಾವು ಇವ್ರ ಜೊತೆ ಕಳೆದ ವರ್ಷ 2022 ಡಿಸೆಂಬರ್ 6ನೇ ತಾರೀಕು ಒಂದು ತುಂಬಾ ದೊಡ್ಡ ಕಲ್ಚರಲ್ ರೆವಲ್ಯೂಷನ್ ತರದಂದ್ರೆ ಒಂದು ಸಾಂಸ್ಕೃತಿಕ ಪ್ರತಿರೋಧ ತರದ ಒಂದು ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವನ್ನು ಹಮ್ಮಿಕೊಂಡಿದ್ರು. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಲಕ್ಷಾಂತರ ಜನ ಬಂದು ಸೇರಿದ್ರು. ಅದಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವು ಅವ್ರ ಜೊತೆ ಸೋಷಿಯಲ್ ಮೀಡಿಯಾ ಮತ್ತು ಮೀಡಿಯಾ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವು ಒಂದಷ್ಟು ಜನ ಅವ್ರ ಜೊತೆ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ. ಅದು ಈಗ ಎಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಇದ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ಮೇಲೆ, ಎಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಆಗೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಮುಂಚೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಡಿಕ್ಲೇರ್ ಆಗೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಮುಂಚೆ ಇವರೆಲ್ಲ ಸೇರಿ ಈಗ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ನಾವು ಚಾಲನಾ ಸಮಿತಿ ಕಾಂಗ್ರೆಸ್ಗೆ ಬೆಂಬಲ ಕೊಡೋದ್ರ ಮುಖಾಂತರ ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಷರತ್ತುಗಳನ್ನ ಕಾಂಗ್ರೆಸ್ಗೆ ಹೇಳಿ ನಾವು ಮುಂದೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬೋದು, ಈಗ ನೀವು ಜೊತೆ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಕೇಳ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದ ಕಾರಣಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ನಾವು ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ. ಅದು ಎಷ್ಟು ದೊಡ್ಡ ಕೆಲಸ ಆಯ್ತು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಸೋಷಿಯಲ್ ಮೀಡಿಯಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುವಂತ ಸುಮಾರು 10,000ರಿಂದ 15,000 ಜನಗಳಿಗೆ ನಾವು ಕಂಟೆಂಟ್ ಅನ್ನ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ, ಪೋಸ್ಟರ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ನಾವು ಒಂದು 15 ಜನ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಅದಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ಹಗಲು ರಾತ್ರಿ ಪೋಸ್ಟರ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಮಾಡಿ, ವಿಡಿಯೋಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಮಾಡಿ ಅದನ್ನ ಹಂಚಿ ಒಟ್ಟಾರೆ ಕೋಮುವಾದಿಗಳು ಮತ್ತು ಜಾತಿವಾದಿಗಳ ವಿರುದ್ಧದ ಕ್ಯಾಂಪೇನ್, ಅದು ಕಾಂಗ್ರೆಸ್ ಪರವಾಗಿ ಅನ್ನೋದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಹೆಚ್ಚಾಗಿ ದಲಿತರ ನಿಜವಾದ ಆಸೆ ಏನು, ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ದಲಿತರು ಏನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ಹೊರಗಡೆ ತೆಗೆಯೋದಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ಅದನ್ನ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ. ಅದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಆಮೇಲೆ ಸುಮಾರು ಲ್ಯಾಕ್ಸ್ ಟುಗೆದರ್ ಕರಪತ್ರಗಳನ್ನ ಹಂಚಲಾಯ್ತು. ಒಳ ಮೀಸಲಾತಿ ವಿಚಾರದಲ್ಲಿ ಬಿಜೆಪಿ ಹೇಳಿದಂತ ಸುಳ್ಳುಗಳನ್ನ ನಾವು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೋಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ. ಅವ್ರು ಏನೇನ್ ಸುಳ್ಳುಗಳನ್ನ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು ಅದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲವನ್ನು ನಾವು ದಲಿತರಿಗೆ ನಿಜವಾಗ್ಲೂ ಬಿಜೆಪಿ ಗೌರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನೆಲ್ಲ ತೊಂದರೆಗಳಾಗಿದೆ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೋಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಸಕ್ಸಸ್ ಆದ್ವಿ. ಅದ್ರ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಒಟ್ಟಾರೆ ಈ ಚಾಲನಾ ಸಮಿತಿಯ 10 ಜನ ಹಿರಿಯರು ಪ್ರತಿ ಜಿಲ್ಲೆಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಅವರು ಕ್ಯಾಂಪೇನ್ ಅನ್ನ ಫಿಸಿಕಲ್ ಆಗಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು. ಪ್ರತಿ ಹಳ್ಳಿಗಳಿಗೂ ಹೋಗಿ, ಜಿಲ್ಲೆಗಳಿಗೂ ಹೋಗಿ, ಆಯಾ ಜಿಲ್ಲಾ ಮತ್ತು ತಾಲೂಕು ಶಾಖೆಗಳು, DSS ಶಾಖೆಗಳಿಂದ ಅವರು ನಿಜವಾಗ್ಲೂ ವೋಟ್ ಹಾಕ್ಬೇಕಾಗಿರೋದು ಯಾರಿಗೆ ಮತ್ತೆ ಯಾರಿಗೆ ಹಾಕ್ಬಾರ್ದು, ಯಾವ ಕಾರಣಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ನಾವು ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಬಿಜೆಪಿಯನ್ನ ಸೋಲಿಸ್ಬೇಕು ಈ ಎಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ಕ್ಯಾಂಪೇನ್ ಆಯ್ತು. ಇದು ಎಷ್ಟು ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ತು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದಲ್ಲಿ ಎದ್ದೇಳು ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಎಷ್ಟು ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಿದ್ಯೋ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಕೆಲಸವನ್ನ ದಲಿತ ಸಂಘರ್ಷ ಸಮಿತಿಗಳ ಚಾಲನಾ ಸಮಿತಿ ಈ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ. ಮತ್ತೆ ಇದೆಲ್ರಿಗೂ ಗೊತ್ತಿರುವಂತ ವಿಷಯ.
ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ಸ್. ಪೂರ್ಣ ಅವರು ಇವಾಗ ಅನುವಾದ ಪೂರ್ಣ will translate now. Why am I speaking in Kannada? Hulikunte Muthi shared very, very important point about what is the position and taken by Dalit groups, and how that's such an important point in terms of the contributing towards the vision or the ideal of a plural Karnataka. I'll leave it to Purna to translate in detail.
Yeah, okay,
Purna
thanks.
is unable to, yeah.
Yes, I managed to unmute myself. Thank you, Hulikunte Murthy sir. Hulikunte Murthy sir basically walked us through what are the major things that Dalit groups in Karnataka did over the last few years and in the last few months in the run-up to the elections. He's here speaking on behalf of at least 10 Dalit organizations spread across the state of Karnataka. And these were groups that were already working on issues of Dalit atrocities and to make the quality of life of marginalized communities in Karnataka better. But over the last 2 years, they worked to strengthen these relationships and also come together since December 2022 to work on the elections. Under this umbrella that Hulikunte Murthy sir is representing today, all factions of the DSS are represented. DSS is the Dalit Sangharsh Samiti. It also has one group called Tamate, which is a group of youngsters in Karnataka which is working. And like he said, this was not formed specifically for the elections, but was already working on issues for the welfare of Dalits, and they thought they could just broaden this umbrella. He spoke of some stalwarts of the Dalit movement in Karnataka who really spearheaded this effort. I missed out one name, so I'm really sorry, Murthy sir, but he spoke of N. Muniswamy, Mavali Shankar, N. Venkatesh, and also Devnur Mahadeva, who are some of the people who really led this from the front. On the December 6th, 2022 in Bangalore, there was this massive cultural resistance program that happened. And this was, and where lakhs of people actually gathered. And it was through this event also that this relationship was further strengthened. And it was during this convention that Dalit groups in Karnataka decided to offer conditional support to Congress. And starting from then on, they've done a lot of work on social media in Karnataka, reaching 10,000 to 15,000 people on an average through brochures and videos condemning casteist and communal elements in the society. And then again, Murthy sir mentioned that this was not an effort to put out a pro-Congress message, but really put out to the world what the Dalit community aspires for, the kind of society that the Dalit community wants to build in Karnataka. That was really at the core of all the campaigns they ran. Another crucial strand that the organization picked up was on the internal reservation question in Karnataka, where they did a lot of groundwork to expose the lies of the BJP on this question that deeply affected the Dalit community. And he also said that the working committee that was formed for this organization did relentless campaigning, physically going to many districts and campaigning in several villages. They're based out of the DSS camps there, and he ended by saying that as much as Eddelu Karnataka and Bahutva Karnataka are being praised for the work that they have done, this coalition of various Dalit groups have also put in the same amount of effort, more to bring to the fore the aspirations of the Dalit people and lending conditional support to the Congress party.
Thanks, Poona, for that excellent translation, and thanks, Hulikunte Murthy sir, for the really very important sharing. I'll now pass the floor on to our friends from the Campaign Against Hate Speech, both Manvi and Shilpa, to address the question of why was the campaign formed and what is the kind of work that the Campaign Against Hate Speech did in the run-up to the elections.
Thanks, Arvind. Thanks, everyone, for having us here. Just to quickly go over the question of why campaign was formed. So actually, like Hulikunte Murthy sir was saying, even Campaign Against Hate Speech, which is a Karnataka-based, specifically Bangalore-based group, our work, while some part of it was rigoured around the elections, we were formed in late 2019 and 2020. And entered that of the kind of targeting the Kannada media was doing of CA dissenters, and the kind of targeting that was being consistently done by them to dehumanize basically dissenters as anti-national and further them away as basically delegitimize an entire movement, the CA NRC movement. And that is where the work really started to say that as people of Karnataka, we are not okay with this kind of Kannada, unethical Kannada TV coverage. And ever since we started doing this work in 2020, and while we were just documenting these kinds of speeches by mainstream Kannada channels like Suvarna, Public TV, which are the big channels in Karnataka, TV9 in Kannada, we were right in the middle of the pandemic by March, and we saw, all of us saw the role that TV media played, even more so regional media, in basically blaming the entire pandemic on one particular community. And so our engagement has been consistently to watch the news, to watch the narratives and how they directly further the agenda of hate by means of directly hate speech, but also engaging in a way that you're able to call for accountability. And these calls for accountability in our work included something that we did of filing complaints consistently, using the legal mechanisms that are available to us, whether it was through the Press Council, through the News Broadcasting Digital Standards Authority, or the DLMC, SLMC, which is the district and the state level monitoring committees. Our idea was to make sure for each hate speech that is made in Karnataka, we will make sure that we approach the self-regulatory bodies, file criminal complaints, and take legal action such that at least that legal action can be used used as grounds for documentation. We also engaged in the question of consistently doing workshops, more specifically around elections. If we elections for us really was making sure all of the that we had done last 3 years, that we were able to place accountability on the government for those kind of hate speeches, and place that kind of accountability through a 2-month-long campaign where we basically looked at, again, continuing our documentation, filing complaints, making sure we had a tip line that people could report hate speech to when we saw it across districts. So a huge part of this work was collaborative and was done with our friends from Yedelu Karnataka, with Bahutwa Karnataka, and there were constantly collaboration that was done to ensure that, while other narratives are important and must be spoken about, the direct challenging of hate must also continue simultaneously by call for accountability. And we did this through making sure we filed complaints to the Election Commission, we filed complaints to the DGP, we distributed pamphlets on the ground level through the support of district-wide and statewide organizations. And the idea really was to bring into focus the fact that whatever has been the hate narratives, especially produced in Karnataka, in context of, say, for example, the hijab, right? Where in entire communities, the Muslim girls lost their right to education and their right to choice, exercise their right to choice. And how do we basically counter that narrative and make sure that that does not play into the election time, at least? So our focus was really the impetus was to make sure that dignity is centered and fundamental right of people to be able to live in a fraternal society is centered. And this is just in brief of some of the work for the impetus and the work around the elections. Yes.
Yeah, thanks. Shilpa, I think you'll come in the next round, I think. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, fine. Thanks to all the speakers in this first round. And as you saw the range of voices, it's really a range of people who are involved in this work. And I think we've got some sense. Again, obviously in a 1.5-hour program, we may not be able to get a full sense of every dimension of the work which is happening. And sometimes we also are more ambitious in terms of the way we want to plan this. But I think what we'll do now is focus on the question which really everybody is interested in. Saying, this is the work which is happening till now. What is the work we can do going in the future? Going into the future, both in terms of Karnataka, I mean, okay, we have a new government in power. What is the work we can do vis-a-vis this government in terms of taking forward, as Vinay put it, our agenda of plural Karnataka or constitutional values? What is the work that we can do vis-a-vis this government? And what is the work we can do in the lead up to the elections in 2024? That's obviously the national level agenda, which everybody is really very interested in. So on those two questions, again, I'll hand it over to the range of speakers we have and the people who've not spoken as yet and who are very, very important in the work that they've done, which is from Yedelu, Karnataka, both Mallige and Du Saraswati are here. I'll hand it over to both of them to address both these questions in the order that they see fit.
ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. ನನ್ನ ಅಭಿಪ್ರಾಯಗಳನ್ನ ನಾನು ಶೇರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ. ಅದಾದ ನಂತರ ದು ಸರಸ್ವತಿ ಆಡ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಕನ್ಕ್ಲೂಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. Arvind, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Thanks, Mallige. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you. As Arvind has already mentioned, the very important thing is to think about how do we proceed now from here. And I would like to add one or two things to the friends and comrades who spoke earlier. The one thing which is very important is we have seen the spectrum of work that happened during the period of this election, and this would not have been possible if the whole civil society, as Kavita was mentioning, calling this civil society maybe in a way reduces the canvas. So I would like to call this a spectrum of social movements and social organizations which intervened in a very effective manner And this would not have been possible if the social movements were not active in the previous times. Like not only for the past 2 years, 3 years, or even before that, when the times were not really that good, when Gauri Lankesh's assassination happened and MM Kalburgi happened, and all of us have seen how the social movements and the responsible citizens of the state rose up against that kind of a hate, the brutal attack on the voices of the civil society. And even before that, when the whole 40-50 years of the history of Karnataka, which shows us how active and vibrant the social movements were in Karnataka at every turn, every corner, whenever there was a shift in the social and political situation. So with all this background, whatever work we could do, like there is nothing to claim or anything, because this was what we were supposed to do as a social organization, as social activists. We were supposed to do such this kind of a intervention, and the only part which is very important here to mention is this was the kind of visual image of a very famous quote by a very important communist revolutionary August Bebel, who says, "March separately, strike jointly." We have seen the literal visual image of that happening in Karnataka in the previous years, including the election intervention. So each and every organization worked in its own capacity. Some of them are here today, and some of them are not even mentioned many times, like the women's organizations, women's movement, who campaigned against BJP when Bilkis happened, and even before that, during hijab, how the secular people of Karnataka stood up and they gave a completely different narrative and different way of countering the hate which was propagated during hijab and after that. So with all this background, when the social organizations came out and reached out to people, we were really humbled to see how the response, the kind of response that we received from the people, actually that actually makes us much more responsible and much more humble, and it's a kind of encouragement for us to work in the future. And this work is also a very good example, because many times we hear that social organizations have been, we are divided, we are not united anymore, two organizations won't work together, and so many such sometimes right and sometimes not so right allegations. So when it comes to such beautiful examples of joint work, collaborated work, and success stories, that gives a lot of hope, which is really required in the difficult times that we are living in right now, and also we are going to face much more difficult days in future if we see the way the country is moving forward. So I think right now we have a very important responsibility of carrying forward the message which was given by the common people. One thing is very clear, that this mandate which is given to the party which is Congress right now in Karnataka was a very clear-cut message by the oppressed sections of Karnataka. This has I don't think there is any dispute about it. Like this was a very clear-cut message against BJP by the women of Karnataka, by the working class people of Karnataka, by the Dalit community of Karnataka, by the minority community of Karnataka, including Muslims and Christians. Everyone voted against BJP for their own reasons, but this message was very clear that they have certain amount of hope, and they keep a kind of responsibility over the party which is chosen now. And that being the case, because we did not have any other alternative in Karnataka apart from Congress, because the regional party, which is the so-called regional party in Karnataka, is totally unreliable. All the organizations who work towards compiling all the votes against BJP, which has to go towards a person who will be winning against the BJP candidate in the local level. So now we have a great responsibility on ourselves to bring forward the demands placed by the people, common people. People's demands need to be brought to the forefront. This is a very important task that we need to take up. There are many such issues, including the atrocities on minorities, atrocities on Dalit, and rape and murder of women, sexual harassment on women, mainly working class and Dalit and oppressed women, and also many issues such as curriculum change and bringing of NEP in education, and removing so many types of scholarships and fellowships which were provided to the oppressed students from oppressed and marginalized sections. So all these issues need to be taken up and they need to be brought to the forefront, including the very important issue of communal harmony, re-establishing the harmonious atmosphere of Karnataka, or taking it forward in a big way that will exceed even the previous times. So with all this, I think as Eddedu Karnataka had announced even prior to the election, the purpose of Eddedu Karnataka was not only limited to the electoral this one, because there were organizations which came from very big range of political streams. Like some of them had their own political parties, whereas some of them, like my own organization, where we do not participate in electoral this one very actively, like with the candidature or anything of that sort. Though we do intervention in a activism manner. So when we have all these organizations coming together in one platform, definitely Eddedu Karnataka announced that when we were finalizing 103 constituencies as critical constituencies, and we were working to build a network in all those constituencies, one of the very important objectives was to take forward the work which is being started now, not started in the literal sense, but continuing the work which has been already started long back by the social movements of Karnataka. So I hope that all of us will be together in this effort of taking forward the cause of people's demands and people's movements. And definitely we need to be more strong and more vibrant, and more we need to expand our base much more, so that we can answer the challenge which is in front of us in the form of 2024 Lok Sabha elections. So thank you all of you for having us here. And now I am requesting Ms. Du Saraswati to add a few points where she wanted to add the important aspects of where Eddedu Karnataka made a difference, and not only Eddedu Karnataka, but all the social movements and social interventions together. Thank you all.
Thank you. Saraswati ಅವರು ಇದ್ದೀರಾ?
ಅವರಿಬ್ರು ಮಾತಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಬೇರೆ ಯಾರಾದ್ರೂ ಮಾತಾಡೋರು ಇದ್ರೆ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ.
No, please go ahead if you would like to add anything.
ಕೇಳುತ್ತಾ? ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಇದು ಆಡಿಯೋದು ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಇತ್ತು ನಂದು ಮೊಬೈಲ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ. ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಾ?
We are able to hear you very clearly.
ಓಕೆ, ನಂಗೆ ಮೊದಲನೇದಾಗಿ ನಾನು ಹೇಳಕ್ ಇಷ್ಟಪಡೋದು, ಈಗ ಏನು ಒಂದು ದೊಡ್ಡದಾಗಿ ಯಶಸ್ಸಿನ ರೂಪದಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, it is almost seen as a victory. This victory, it did not happen, as a magic. I feel it is the culmination of various efforts taken by the various secular, progressive, left, Dalit, women groups, consistently working on this communalism, whether it is hijab, whether it is supporting Bilkis, or it is 75th anniversary of Independence Day, or it is CAA, or during the Corona. how even during that time, they were trying to communalize the whole issue. All the things is the effort done by various progressive Dalit and left groups. So it did not happen. It did not just fall from the sky. And this time, I think the credit goes to it was hard work. It was meticulous work. The first thing is the survey. Survey was done in an excellent way, which came true also. And, especially choosing these crucial constituencies and going there and working. There were 103 constituencies, which was noted as crucial, where, the major work has been done, not to divide the vote and pull the people out, those who were not voting. And if they are voting, whom they have to vote. And people who know that they won't win, but they were standing for elections, making them to withdraw. That's a very good work which has been done. And this Bahutva Karnataka, evaluating all the government policies and projects and making that report cards was excellent. And some of this based on the constitutional speech, cards were by Vinay, that was excellent. And this hate speech consistently being done, that was, all these things have come together. And I think from civil society, this people's agenda put forth, grading the government work from the people's point of view was excellent. And now, after this, the third and the fourth question is very much important for us. We have not stopped the work. It is just a comma. It is not a full stop. We have already begun the work. Just yesterday, we went to the Chief Minister's office. Mining Workers Union, Garment Workers Union, Safai Karmachari Workers Union, Workers Union. There were 7, 8 ITI Workers Union. We all went the memorandum. We met the CM, we gave, and we went to his office, and the concerned departments made alert yesterday. So the work has already begun. Our intention was defeat the BJP, it limits. We were fighting for the constitution. We were fighting for the democracy of this country. I think that will be, justice done to all these efforts. Our intention is not just beating BJP. So yes, of course, we all felt, relieved this time BJP lost, so that, at least we will have some space to fight. And I think that with the same spirit, we have to come together. All these coalitions which are working, but for democratic India and constitutional India, we have to come together. The difference which we have, with all that we came together, as Mallige rightly told, we have a same goal, but we are marching in different morchas. But we can come together. That is the I felt personally, I felt very hopeful, because we all came together. We were mutually benefiting each other. We mutually cooperating each other with all our questions. There were seat difference also. Why Congress? Why we have to support this? Why, unconditional support for the? No, we were not asking. I also went to few constituencies. We were telling, what had this previous government has done, and you have to choose a person who can stand for the people, who can stand for the democracy of India, who can stand for the constitution made by Baba Sahib. So I think this common agenda can make us, together, and I have lots of hope. Because all of us are dreamers, those who have come forward, and I think since 2-3 years it has been a difficult journey for everyone because of the corona, and how corona was made use, how even that they wanted to saffronize. And I think how many 44,000 signatures were collected for Bilkis. And it was not simply collecting the signature. People went to each person, spoke about it, and got the signature. I think this effort, this time we have shown that not only the civil society, the social groups, the activist groups, we have a say, and we can participate in such campaigns. It is, I think, nobody has claimed any power by the Congress for the work we have done. That is why it is a moral obligation for the Congress also, which CM himself has declared. This time they have won because of all the progressive force of Karnataka stood with us. So I'm looking forward. I think with the same spirit we will work, and we will also, 2024 election is. This is just Eddelu Karnataka. The next, I think somebody has put in the message. It is Eddelu Bharata. Awake India. Awake India. That doesn't mean that we were sleeping all these days and now we are getting up. I think we have woken up for this electoral politics, and what we can play, and what a positive and important role as social groups we can play. We have really understood. I think that the same spirit and the same goal, same objective, we have to work towards 2024 election. I think maybe we will all be together from all the states.
Thank you, Saraswati. Thank you.
And one last thing I wanted to tell you was, and this is the time for reflection also. I mean, I'm not going to share all those things because it will take, as an activist since 1982, there are many things we have to reflect, we have to correct, we have to set right, and we have to come together.
Thank you. And thank you for that very valuable sharing, both Mallige and Saraswati. I'll now hand the floor to Janaki, who will also address the question of the way forward. Janaki, you're there?
Yes.
Right, yeah.
If you don't mind, I'll briefly show myself, but I have to turn the video off.
Okay,
because my internet is not so great. Thank you, first of all, for inviting me. I feel greatly honored, actually, to be part of this forum and to listen to all those who have spoken before me. It's really, truly humbling. I would like particularly to thank Hulikunte Murthy for reminding us, because I think the English media, at least, has tended to focus largely on the work of Eddelu Karnataka and Bahutwa. I'm also partly guilty there. And so thank you for once more, correcting that picture, because I was present at that December 6th meeting where there was great energy and there was a great unity displayed by the many different Dalit groups, quite unlike what somebody has remarked in one of the chat boxes. There was a coming together that was truly unique and historic. And I think it had its effects in the election results as well. I'm going to pick up from where Saraswati stopped, because I think we need also to perhaps, not just pat ourselves on the back, but also to think more strenuously and clearly about what role, civil society groups can continue to play so it doesn't begin and end with this election. I think everybody is aware of this. Everybody is also aware that we cannot underestimate the extent to which the BJP and particularly other groups such as the Bajrang Dal, the RSS, and so on and so forth have penetrated many levels of society. This is not something that is going to simply disappear with one electoral defeat. So we cannot underestimate that force which has already been established in many parts of Karnataka. But what is our relationship to this government? Partly because, as many people are saying, the unspoken consensus among all the civil society groups that worked was that we should somehow, it was a no vote for BJP campaign. And let me just say here that we had a long conversation with the people in Bengal who ran the no vote for BJP campaign. And at the end of that conversation, I have to say I felt very discouraged, because I thought there is no way we can repeat what Bengal did, because there is no way we can raise a campaign like that. But of course, we have done it and it has been successful. I think one of the greatest things that we have to insist on with this current government is accountability. I think that is what has taken a great hit, and we need to be vigilant about the kinds of ways in which this government can be held accountable, not just holding the party to its manifesto and its promises, but scrutinize and evaluate each and every decision. Today's paper, for example, reports that the new minister, Sharan Prakash Patel, has announced that he is going to set up super specialty hospitals in 5 divisions. And my heart sank a little bit, because I thought all that we said in one of the report cards on health, in which we emphasized public health as important, has been neglected. But very soon after that, I also saw the report which says that Dinesh Gundu Rao, who's in charge of the health portfolio, has also come out quite clearly in favor of public health. And that's a good thing. Now, I hope we can hold these ministers to their promises, but also hold them accountable for what they are saying and doing. So, and I saw also today that D.K. Shivkumar has said that he's using a completely different kind of language to get an interstate project such as Mekedatu made possible. And again, I was a little alarmed, because I thought that, what did our environment report card say? That we cannot just blunder into the reckless use of natural resources in a way that affects generations to come. So will there be some second thinking about how commonly held resources are going to be used and so on? But I appreciate the fact that he is now talking, and I think this is the opportunity that Karnataka has to get neighboring states like Tamil Nadu and so on to come forward and collaborate in doing things, thinking differently about use of common resources and so on and so forth. And I hope this can be turned into an opportunity. But of course, this will not happen unless there is enough pressure on these groups, especially to think about one of the most looming problems, which is, of course, the ecological crisis, which is already having an effect on the way in which we experience the weather today and so on and so forth. Apparently, the Mekedatu project threatens something like 43, that's almost half of the Kaveri Wildlife Sanctuary, which will be submerged. So this is a very serious matter that the current government has to be urged to take seriously. Can it think differently about the way in which it promotes development? Can it be made to think differently about, for example, the idea of green jobs, rather than just the kinds of work that plunders natural resources? The second point that I want to make, and I think this is extremely important for us all, is that we have so far, in all our activities, and especially all the activities leading up to the campaign for the elections, been responding to a narrative that has been set by the BJP and its allied organizations. We have to self-consciously set an alternative narrative, not just, respond to these fires that are being started. We have done an excellent job, I think, and I think I congratulate Manavi and Shilpa for the work they've done in documenting hate speech, taking illegal action against instances of hate speech and so on. But what are the ways in which we can set an alternative narrative? And I don't know, this is not going to be an easy question to answer. What are the kinds of visionary futures which cannot and need not be a worship of the past? And I'm saying this as somebody who even think when we were drafting the report cards or rewriting them, we were thinking in terms of, what is the Karnataka heritage in the post-independence period and so on. But I think the time for that kind of nostalgia has gone. And I think we should, not merely invert what people have been doing in the last 4 years. So here again, I saw that A.C. Mahadevappa, who's the Minister for Social Welfare, has said that the preamble will become mandatory in all schools and colleges. So it will become just another prayer. We need to have a meaningful idea of what constitutionalism is. We have to fan out into our, into our educational institutions in order to make that possible. So I'm suggesting that we have to go beyond the kind of tokenism that the previous government was engaged in with very obviously deleterious consequences. I'm really happy to see in the last 3 or 4 years that there have been a large number of groups and individuals who have been engaged with and interested in defending the Constitution. And it has taken the form and shape of I myself have been going to my local school where we've been engaging with young students on the idea of the Samvidhana and what it stands for. And I know that people in the Alternative Law Forum have also likewise been taking constitutional lessons for various kinds of groups and so on and so forth. And I think that work has to proceed. What is it that is to be protected, and to be protected from the way in which it is being, as Arvind pointed out in his introduction, we have seen a very serious degradation of the rule of law. And we need to emphasize to especially our young people the importance of having a visionary document like the Constitution, a protective document like the Constitution, and why it needs to be saved. So, these two things, I think two points that I'm making here. One is that we have to try and set a new narrative. I don't know what the content of that narrative will be, because certainly some of the older ideas with which the left has functioned through the 70s and the 80s is no longer, it no longer has the same kind of traction today in a vastly changed kind of context. So we'll have to think imaginatively and new for, what it is that we can demand of our governments. And as I say, an election is not the beginning and the end. I started by saying we all know and we are aware of how entrenched these forces have become. We have to be conscious of that in our efforts in the forthcoming months.
Sure. Thanks so much, Janaki. Thank you so much. We have 2 more speakers. We'll see if we can go get Vikas Maurya to come in from the Dalit groupings. Idirali.
ಹಲೋ ವಿಕಾಸ್ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ತೊಂದರೆ ಇದೆ, ಮಳೆ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಚಿಂತಾಮಣಿನಲ್ಲಿ. ದಟ್ಸ್ ವೈ ಅವನು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಕಷ್ಟ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ.
ಸರಿ, ನೀವು ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಆಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಡಿ. ವಾಟ್ ಯು ಥಿಂಕ್ ವಿ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಡೂ ಇನ್ ದಿ ರನ್ ಅಪ್ ಟು ಬೋತ್ 2024 as well as ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಎಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ಸ್, ಪೋಸ್ಟ್ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಇವಾಗ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು?
ಓಕೆ, ನಾನೀಗ ಒಂದು ಕಡಿಮೆ ವಿಷಯಗಳನ್ನ ಹೇಳಿ ಮುಗಿಸ್ತೀನಿ. ನಾವು ಏನು DSS ನಿಂದ ಒಂದು ಷರತ್ತುಗಳನ್ನ ಕಾಂಗ್ರೆಸ್ಗೆ ಹಾಕಿದ್ವಿ, ಆ ಷರತ್ತುಗಳನ್ನ ಅವರು ಈಡೇರಿಸಲೇಬೇಕು. ಯಾಕೆಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಒಂದು ದೊಡ್ಡ ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಟಿ ಈ ಸಲ ಬಿಜೆಪಿಯನ್ನ ಸೋಲಿಸಿ ಒಂದು ಹೊಸ ಸರ್ಕಾರ ತರಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ತುಂಬಾ ಸಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದೆ. ಅದನ್ನು ಈಗಾಗ್ಲೇ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಇರುವಂತಹ ಒಟ್ಟಾರೆ ದಲಿತ ಮಂತ್ರಿಗಳು ಅವರೆಲ್ಲರೂ ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಮುಖ್ಯವಾಗಿ ಈ ಒಳ ಮೀಸಲಾತಿ ವಿಚಾರದಲ್ಲಿ ಅವ್ರು ತೆಗೆದುಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕಾಗಿರುವಂತ ನಿಲುವುಗಳು ನಾವು ಮುಂದೆ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳುತ್ತೆ. PTCL ಆಕ್ಟ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ, ಅದಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ SCP TSP ಅಮೌಂಟ್ ಅನ್ನ ಅವ್ರು ಎಷ್ಟು ಕಳೆದ ಸರ್ಕಾರಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಹೇಗೆ ಅದನ್ನ ನಿಭಾಯಿಸ್ತಾರೆ ಅನ್ನೋದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ, ಅದಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಗವರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ದಲಿತ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್ಗೆ ಆದಂತ ತುಂಬಾ ದೊಡ್ಡ ನಷ್ಟ, ಸ್ಕಾಲರ್ಶಿಪ್ ಆಗ್ಲಿ ಅಥವಾ ಹಾಸ್ಟೆಲ್ ಫೆಸಿಲಿಟೀಸ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಲೋನ್ ಫೆಸಿಲಿಟೀಸ್ ದಲಿತ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್ಗೆ, ಈ ತರದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ನಾವು ಈ ಸರ್ಕಾರದಲ್ಲಿ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಯಾಕೆಂದ್ರೆ ನಾವೊಂದು ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಟಿ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಸಂಘಟನೆ ಅಲ್ಲದೆ ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದಾಗಿ ಈ ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಟಿಗೆ ಈ ಆಧಾರದ ಮೇಲೆನೆ ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಟಿ ಬೆಳಿಬೇಕಾಗಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದಾಗಿ ನಾವ್ ಇಂಥದ್ದನ್ನ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಬಟ್ ಎಲ್ಲದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಹೆಚ್ಚಾಗಿ ಒಂದು ಒಂದು ಹೆಮ್ಮೆ ಇದೆ ನಮ್ಗೆ, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಈ ಸರ್ಕಾರ ಬರ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವು ಒಂದು ಸಹಾಯ ಮಾಡಿದೀವಿ ಅಂತ. ಇದ್ರ ಜೊತೆಗೆ 2024 ಎಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ಗೂ ಕೂಡ ನಾವೀಗ ಸೇಮ್ ಕ್ಯಾಂಪೇನ್ ಹಿಂದೆಯಿಂದ ಏನ್ ನಡೀತಾ ಇತ್ತು, ಇನ್ನೊಂದ್ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಸಂಘಟನೆಗಳನ್ನ ಒಳಗೊಳ್ಳಿಕ್ಕೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಸೀನಿಯರ್ಸ್ ಯೋಜನೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಈಗಾಗ್ಲೇ ಅದ್ರ ಕೆಲಸ ಶುರುವಾಗಿದೆ. 2024 MP ಎಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ ನಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ಇದೇ ರೀತಿಯ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದ ಮಾದರಿಯನ್ನ ಇಡೀ ಭಾರತದ ಮಾದರಿಯನ್ನಾಗಿ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಮತ್ತು ಭಾರತದ ಇತರ ರಾಜ್ಯಗಳ ದಲಿತ ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಟೀಸ್ ಜೊತೆ, ದಲಿತ ಸಂಘಟನೆಗಳ ಜೊತೆ ಒಂದು ಅಲಯನ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನು ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಅವ್ರ ಜೊತೆ ಮಾತಾಡುವ ಮುಖಾಂತರ ನಾವು ಈ ಎಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಗೆ ಸಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು, ಮುಂದೆ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ. ಮತ್ತೆ ಸೋಷಿಯಲ್ ಮೀಡಿಯಾ ಮತ್ತೆ ಹೊಸ ಕಾಲದ ಸಾಧ್ಯತೆಗಳನ್ನ ನಾವು ಇನ್ನೂ ಹೆಚ್ಚಾಗಿ ಬಳಸ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದೀವಿ. ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು.
Thank you. Purna, will you be able to come in quickly?
Yes, very quickly. The Murthy sir says that the DSS and other Dalit organizations have extended conditional support to Congress, and they have very clear expectations from the current government, and the new government in Karnataka has no choice but to fulfill them. And if they don't fulfill them, these organizations and the community at large will definitely hold them to account, especially because one massive big population of Karnataka has thrown their weight behind Congress, and now they are going to expect the new Karnataka government to live up to these expectations. He drew attention to some specific expectations that they have with respect to internal reservation, which is something that the previous government cheated the Dalit community on. The previous BJP government also it took away hostel facilities from Dalit students. The scholarships meant for SC/ST students were reduced and in some situations completely cut off. And these are things that the Congress government will be expected to set right. And he made a very important point saying, we are first a community and not an organization, and that's something that the government should remember, that we are not an organization but a community. And he said that the effort that has gone into bringing this non-BJP government is immense as far as the Dalit community is concerned, and they're extremely proud of it. As far as the 2024 elections are concerned, they will continue the work that they've been doing so far, and they'll try and bring in more organizations under this umbrella of Dalit organizations. The effort will be to replicate the Karnataka model across the country. And more importantly, Murthy sir said that the effort will be to bring in more Dalit organizations from across the country within the umbrella of this Dalit coalition, and social media and other new possibilities that new age technology and India offer will definitely be an important part of the campaign. Thank you.
Thanks, Purna. Fantastic translation again. Shilpa, you're the last speaker now. You have the floor now to address a little bit about hate speech, what campaigning against hate speech is planning, both in Karnataka as well as in terms of the 2024 elections.
Thank you, Arvind. So specifically from the campaign against hate speech, we see that our role actually, now that the Congress government has come into power, is enhanced, because they did come to power on the promise of change. And we see that because of the sort of damage that was done by a communal government over the past few years, there is an enhanced responsibility on the part of the Congress government and on our part to hold them to account for all the changes that they did promise would happen over their term. Specifically from the campaign, we see, for example, over the term of the BJP government, because it was running the government on the basis of hate and communal violence, caste-based violence and gender discrimination, we see that all the complaints that people had filed, all the grievances that citizens had raised against hate just went ignored or completely unanswered. In fact, we saw recently an expose on the government that over 385 cases of communal violence were withdrawn against various Bajrang Dal leaders, against various VHP leaders, or against leaders of the BJP themselves. And just out of that very small number that was disclosed via an RTI, over 182 cases that were withdrawn were cases of hate speech that incited violence against communities. So we see, for example, here, the new government, we see that we can push them to register FIRs in these cases, and that all, or to take back these cases that were withdrawn, to not withdraw such cases in the future and hold them accountable. Let the police machinery that is meant to hold people accountable for hate speech, hold them accountable instead of giving them a pass every time that they do engage in hate speech that is harmful like this. We also see, for example, the thousands of complaints that civil society organizations have filed, that individuals have filed, that victims have filed, all went ignored, and they shouldn't just go down in history as just having been recorded as complaints that were filed, but something that we can now act upon as a government that is claiming to be responsible to its people. We also see from the campaign that over the term of the BJP, the district level monitoring committees and the state level monitoring committees, which are committees that are set up under the Cable Television Regulation Act, are meant to hold cable television broadcasters accountable for any hate speech that they broadcast. And there are various codes, the programming and advertising code, that they're meant to follow. But we see that these, not only do they have offices that are completely empty, but these authorities themselves don't know that they are heads of these committees. So we see with this new government that our role is also to push them to activate these institutions of accountability that only exist right now on paper or only exist in empty offices. We also see that this government has, in the past, of course, admonished the BJP for failing to follow, for failing to actually respect orders of the court, for failing to see it as an institution that is deserving of any respect. So we see, for example, that the PUCL order regarding suo motu registering of FIRs has to be implemented. Tehseen Poonawalla, for example, where a nodal committee has to be set up to prevent communal clashes, to prevent disbursing of hate speech, has to be set up. So essentially what I'm saying is that there are so many ways in which over the last few years, the law was weaponized. And we see that in the cow slaughter, we see that both in the law and on the ground and in social realities. But if you were to even just take the law as a limited example, you see the cow slaughter enactment, you see the hijab order, you see the criminal law amendments, the labor law amendments, you see the freedom of religion act that they've brought about. So, and there are various ways in which the law was weaponized, both to punish communities as an entirety and both to punish people and organizations that were trying to hold government accountable to the constitution. So we see the role of this new government and our role with this new government as not only making sure that they don't weaponize the law like this, but that they're not able, that no government from this government onwards is able to weaponize the law in the manner that they did till now. Sorry, am I taking too much time?
No, thank you. You have one more point to make, Shilpa?
Yes, so I just have a final point, specifically regarding what do we do for the now elections that are coming in 2024. Of course, it's a concerted effort, not just focusing on elections, but a larger focus to make sure that a government that has such fascist tendencies cannot come into power ever again. But we see that there's a need for capacity building to make sure that more and more like-minded people come together to counter to counter any communal, any hateful government from coming into power in the 2024 elections. And one of the ways that we see that happening is to change the tone of politics, is to change the tone in which governments see that they can govern their people. So we see for the 2024 elections that that's the need and that's what we should be focusing on. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Shilpa. I think we'll have a little time for a question and answer. I think Kavita, you want to take over from here?
Yeah. Hi. I think we have Suresh who has joined us. Suresh, are you with us? Okay. So I'd like, do we have questions in the chat? Have people been writing questions and comments in the chat? Aishwarya, could you please collate some of that and share it with all of us if there are any specific clarifications needed or any idea that you think we need to talk about. So now the discussion is open for all our friends. I think just raise your hand and we'd like you to ask your question. And I think all the speakers feel free to answer. So can we have some questions from the group? No, are we satisfied with all that our friends have spoken? Is there anything that we'd like to add? Would you, Aishwarya, would you read? Would you read
Yeah.
out? Yeah.
No, there are many comments on the chat box, Kavita. So I'll just
Yeah,
read
whatever
out
you think
some of them.
needs clarification from our speakers, or you need to be taken.
Some ideas. Yeah,
further.
yeah. One of them is that that Congress has defeated BJP, but the communalism has not been defeated yet. The victory is a correction of mistakes that people had done in the past elections. One of the most important reasons was avoidance of vote split between Congress, JDS, and other parties. The Central and North Karnataka voters were the real heroes who acted. So, I mean, the points here that they're trying to make that I thought we can leave to one of the speakers is that another major factor was Congress freebies, and civil society must take practical steps to improve society now. Their work starts now. In reality, organizations weren't able to do much under the BJP regime, so now is the time. I mean, this is echoing a lot of what our speakers have already said, and a lot of the comments. Do you want to respond to any of this?
Any of our speakers who would like to respond to this? Although some of you did touch upon it, but if you'd like to emphasize that once more. अगर आप में से कोई ये जो टिप्पणी दी है, कमेंट दिया है कि अब उस पे आप कुछ अपनी बात रखना चाहेंगे? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no, actually I was waiting for any of our other friends to respond, but I think whenever there was a comment, any specific question, some of us were responding. The very important thing that we should, all of us should be very careful about is that yes, BJP is defeated electorally, but ideologically they are not yet defeated. And I don't think any of us, either if it is Dalita Sangatanegala Samanvaya Vedike or hate speech Veda or Bahutva, any of us believe that by defeating Congress electorally, we are going to defeat RSS or their Manuvadi agenda. I don't think any of us think like that. From the very beginning, Karnataka has a very, very strong social coalition, social movements against communalism. And it was during the period when Congress was ruling, and it was during the period when Congress and JDS were ruling jointly, and it was sometimes when JDS and BJP both were in power, and then BJP was in power. During all these periods, Karnataka was always active. Karnataka's civil society voices were always active. So I think now the point is to develop specific strategies to take this work forward in a much more bigger canvas, in a very deep, with a meaningful way, and expand it to the all India what we call the all India context. So how do we connect all this is a very big challenge. That is not really easy. Though we have a common goal, though we have a common enemy, the way which is in front of us is not one single way. There are so many differences and there are so many very minute issues and aspects that actually make us sometimes really worried. So it is not really very easy, but since we have all of us here, like all of you friends, seniors, veterans, and many more experienced friends and comrades to join hands and take this forward, I think we will be able to do it successfully. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Rajendran, would you like to come in now with your comment? And then I think Som has a very specific question. Rajendran? Rajendran, are you there?
Yeah. Hi, Kavita.
Yeah.
Sorry, I couldn't unmute. No, I just wanted to say that I think there are many important lessons to learn from the Karnataka initiative, but I think we need to really expand its scale here, because one of the things I have been thinking is the need to create a coalition to build a pan-India civil society action network for 2024, very targeted. And this would involve having members from different states, different districts if possible. And I think one of the things that we can learn from the report card initiative that was done is have different dimensions of evaluating BJP's policy, build a narrative that every paisa that is spent on discriminatory laws of any kind is a paisa lost in building human development. So I think if we can create those kind of narratives and also prepare report cards at 3 levels, at the national level, what kind of policies have, what kind of impact it has had on the common people, at the state level, what it has done in terms of federalism, and even at a constituency level. And so that report card can also be a way for non-BJP parties to rally on, okay, this is where we have not done well. So we need to really do better. So I think those two are critical points. And I think the idiom needs to be as simple as possible, completely devoid of academic and legal jargon. So these are two things that I would and we need foot soldiers to be able to go to every constituency and build bottom up in that sense. So that's something that I very strongly feel. And sorry, just to add to that, I think creating working groups, borrowing something from the corporate world, is create verticals for different kinds of dimensions. So let's say there is one on federalism, there's one on health, education, etc. Each would be a vertical. We have to create a working group for each vertical. Within the working group, we need to create these kind of talking points for different issues, I think, and have a steering committee for each of them. So that's one thing which would be possible.
So definitely one thing that we have to learn from Karnataka is the mobilization of people. And I think if we could have dwelt on that a little more, how did you mobilize? How did you get the younger people out? How did you do it across the state? Or was it, focused? I think those are something, I'm not saying you answered now, but those are things like, say, for instance, Haryana, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, going for elections in December. We need to learn those things. What were the mobilization tactics? How did you bring the youths to actually come and think differently, or read your reports, or even vote differently, raise the right questions? Anyway, so those are just to add on to what Rajendra was saying. We have Rajendra ji who has raised his hand, and then we'll move on to Som's question, which is very important when he says that has the question of the EVM been resolved now? I think something like that. His question was whether the EVM question has been resolved. We must answer that. We really need to discuss that, because that has also been an issue that we've raised. But Rajendra ji, you please go ahead first.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Thanks. We have to actually learn a lot from this election. especially it's not just one or two or three groups participated in this. Wide range of groups have actually participated in this, that we should know. One very important people defeated in this. One C.T. Ravi is General Secretary, BJP, defeated very badly. And Nagesh, he was Education Minister, instrumental in bringing a whole lot of things to textbooks and all that, defeated. There are many others. The other important thing is that this particular mandate went against misrule of BJP, went against communalism, went against Modi and Shah, and went against the corruption. So all these are multiple factors which operated. And the lessons that we should actually learn from this is that the process has begun from Bharat Jodo Yatra. Rahul Gandhi's impact, we can't undermine. And that was the beginning when the conversation started, interaction started in the state and also elsewhere. So we should not actually forget. Then Congress also this time realized that they should overcome their shortcomings, weaknesses. That is another important thing. There are two things. One, Siddaramaiah was mass leader, D.K. Shivakumar was strategist. So both have actually worked. So in that context, we should give a message to the nation that Congress has got specific role to play, specific type of leaders required to lead the Congress party. That's another important thing. The one more this thing is coming up after this election is that opposition parties across India are coming together. So that is another important thing. We have to actually consolidate all this and take it forward, link it with the 2024 parliament elections. Now, our friends have already shared that the civil society's organization, it is not just civil society organization, literary forums, intellectuals, all other groups have actually responded to this. So it is actually cumulative efforts of different organizations and individuals. I think 24 election is important, and this is a lesson that we learned. We should actually take that forward. And this vigilante groups, right now, they are silenced right now. I don't know when they are going to this thing. If we had to keep them in their position under control, then the Congress party will have to work out its strategies. The Gulkunte Murthy said one thing, one major Dalit community for the first time voted to Congress. Landed Congress in a very big way. Now that's what they could get 135, 136 seats. So these kinds of things, the negotiations with those who are not part of this, but they are far progressive things, they are there. I think we need to look at all this and share it with others. We in Karnataka, we have to actually look at all these and work out as a strategy for the future. So that's something that I just would like to say. Thank you.
Thank you for sort of bringing in many more inputs of other groups and the direction that we can take now. So who's answering Som's question? Are EVMs really an issue, or has EVM capture been prevented by booth level CSOs and the Congress presence? How do we answer this? Yeah, Malagi?
Actually, during the campaign, everywhere Maulana Mohammad Yusuf Kani sir used to talk about this. मौलाना जी ये ईवीएम के बारे में आप जो बोल रहे थे हर जगह, because it was very important, because we only had 1 month or 1.5 months when we started our actual grassroots level work. Both aspects which are highlighted here are important. Like one, having social organizations, at booth level definitely discourage the whatever kind of interventions that would have been made by RSS or other people in each booth. That is one point. But apart from that, one very important aspect that Muhammad Yusuf Kani Saab used to talk everywhere was spreading the news of EVMs amongst the people who would vote for Congress has also been a strategy used by BJP in many places. This was a point that he used to make. I think if we have time, he will be able to elaborate on that. Because when they used to spread that news like आप किसी को भी वोट कीजिए, वोट तो बीजेपी को ही जाएगा, you vote for anyone, BJP is going to benefit. And who are the people who are going to be discouraged by that? The people who belong to minority communities, people who belong to Dalit community, or those who would have voted for Congress, those will be the ones who would stay at home if they start believing this. So everywhere, Eddedu Karnataka campaign teams sent a message: whatever happens, whatever EVMs are doctored or whatever is the case, we are not going to sit at home. We are going out and we are performing our duties. We will vote against BJP this time. No one is going to sit at home. And they have actually, in a very big way, brought many people who did not even have their voter ID cards earlier made. They took up a very big campaign. Even the Christian community here, we have Vikram Anthony sir here, Anthony Vikram sir, and Manohar Chandra Prasad sir here, and many others who have taken it up in a very big way and got their voter IDs done. So I think it is not completely true that when the people have decided to vote against BJP, BJP will only, BJP will still win based only on the EVMs. I don't think that conclusion will be true.
Thank you, Arvind. Should we move on to the next question, or we want Maulana Yusuf to say a few words on this? Or?
जी मैं आवाज आ रही है मेरी?
हाँ, बहुत ही संक्षिप्त में, बहुत ही, क्योंकि फौजान माजिद जी का हाथ बड़ी देर से ऊपर है।
हाँ नहीं, मैं तो मल्लिकी मैडम ने बता दिया है इसके लिए। हम तो कैंपेन जो किए, इसकी प्रशांत टंडन, ये आप जानते हैं कि ये मीडिया पर्सन है और पूरे मुल्क में घूमते फिरते रहते हैं। उन्होंने बहुत अच्छे से उनके साथ हमारा डिस्कशन हुआ ईवीएम के बारे में। तो हमारा उनका कहना तो ये था कि प्रोपेगेंडा है ये बीजेपी का, और ये डिस्कशन माइनॉरिटीज में और दलितों में होता है, दूसरे कम्युनिटी के बीच में इसका चर्चा नहीं होता। तो हमने लोगों से ये कहा कि ये विषय हमारा नहीं है, ये जो बिग पार्टी है उनका विषय है, और जो बहुत सोचने समझने वाले हाई लेवल के लोग हैं उनका काम है कि ये ईवीएम के बारे में क्या करें। लेकिन हमारा काम ये है कि हम क्योंकि इस मुल्क के शहरी हैं, तो हमारा काम ये है कि मुद्दा करके वोट डालें। आपको मालूम होगा कि ये जो प्रचार हमने किया, बहुत बड़े पैमाने पे लोगों ने आगे बढ़ करके वोट किया। जो सिलेक्टेड हमारा कॉन्स्टिट्यूंसी थे ना, उसमें तो बहुत बड़े पैमाने पे वोटिंग इस मरतबा हुई है। तो हमारा ख्याल ये है कि ये चर्चा क्योंकि हमारा नहीं है, हाई लेवल पे चर्चा होना चाहिए, और जो बिग पार्टी है वो चर्चा करें इसके ताल्लुक से। ये हमारा विषय तो नहीं है, ये हम लोगों को समझाने में इस कैंपेन में हम कामयाब हुए। बस इतनी बात।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। फौजान माजिद जी।
Yeah. Good evening to everyone. We have been saying that we have to go forward and do something else. What is that something else? That something else is to create an atmosphere for that opposition unity. You see, if you create that atmosphere for opposition unity, half of the job will be done. So the most of the time, I have studied the elections very well, and I have written that the vote division this time did not happen, and that benefited the Congress party. So the problem with the civic organizations is they are more apologetic in nature. They are nice people doing good work, and you'd like to no. It's time now that they become assertive, and they talk to opposition parties, and sometimes they should show them the mirror that this is your, in Urdu you call, this is your haysiyat, this is your status, and then you are You are longing for power and all this thing. You stand here. So be there only. Okay. So this type of certain means not everyone has to do that, but there should be some learned people from the society who are good at data analysis, who are having a credible face, or who know the political parties well. They have to do that, and it should be a serious thing, and it should not be ignored.
Thank you.
I'm done with my question. Please,
Yeah,
anyone can
thank
answer.
you. Yeah. Would anybody like to respond from amongst our speakers? Saraswati, Janaki, Murthy.
ನನ್ಗೆ ಒಂದು ಹಲೋ ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಾ
Yeah,
ಇದೆಯಾ?
go ahead. Yeah, you're audible.
ಪೂರ್ಣ ಒಂಚೂರು ನೀನ್ ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳ್ಬಿಡಪ್ಪ, ನಾನು ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲೇ ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ. ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಬೇಗ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ. ಈಗಾಗ್ಲೇ ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾತಾಡಿದವ್ರು ಏನ್ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಆ ತರದೊಂದು ಪ್ರಯತ್ನ ಈಗಾಗ್ಲೇ ಶುರುವಾಗಿದೆ. ಹಲೋ,
Yes, please
go ahead. Please go ahead.
Kannada well. Okay, please.
ಅಲ್ಲ, ಈಗ ಒಬ್ಬರು ಮಾತಾಡಿ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ, ಆ ತರದ್ದು ಪ್ರಯತ್ನ ಈಗಾಗ್ಲೇ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದಲ್ಲಿ ಶುರುವಾಗಿದೆ. ನಾವು ತುಂಬಾ ಸ್ವೀಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಮುಖ ತೋರ್ಸೋದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ನೀವ್ ಹೇಗಿದ್ದೀರಿ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ತೋರ್ಸೋದನ್ನ ಬಹಳ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗ್ ಮಾಡಿದೀವಿ. ಈಗ ಉದಾಹರಣೆಗೆ ಎದ್ದೇಳು ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದ ಸಣ್ಣ ಪುಸ್ತಿಕೆಯನ್ನ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಲ್ಲ, ಅದು ಅವ್ರು ಮಾಡಿದ್ ಎಲ್ಲದನ್ನು ಪ್ರಚಾರವನ್ನ ಮಾಡ್ತು. ಮತ್ತೆ ಈ ರಿಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಕಾರ್ಡ್ಗಳನ್ನ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದು ಅದನ್ನು ತುಂಬಾ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಮಾಡ್ತು. ನನ್ಗೆ ಮುಂದಿನ 2024 ಎಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮ ನಡುವೆ ಆಗ್ಬೇಕಾಗಿರೋದೇನು ಅಂದ್ರೆ, ಈಗ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದ್ದೇ ತಗೊಂಡ್ರೆ ಬಹುತ್ವ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಹೇಟ್ ಸ್ಪೀಚ್ ನ ವಿರುದ್ಧ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಅಥವಾ ಎದ್ದೇಳು ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದ್ದಾಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ನಮ್ಮದು ಎಲ್ಲರದನ್ನು ಗುರಿ ಒಂದೇ ಇದೆ. ಆದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ ದಾರಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗಿದೀವಿ. ಆದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಪರಸ್ಪರ ಒಳಗೊಳ್ಳೋ ಪ್ರಕ್ರಿಯೆಯನ್ನ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾಗಿದೆ. ಅದು ತುಂಬಾ ಮುಖ್ಯವಾಗಿರೋದು. ಈಗ ಉದಾಹರಣೆಗೆ ನಾವು ಅವರು ಸರ್ಕಾರ ಪೈಸೆ ಹೆಂಗೆ ಖರ್ಚು ಮಾಡಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ತೋರ್ಸೋವಾಗ ದಲಿತರಿಗೆ ಮೀಸಲಿಟ್ಟ ಹಣ ಹೆಂಗೆ ಪೋಲ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ಹೆಂಗೆ ಬೇರೆದಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗ್ತಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಬೇಕು. ಮತ್ತೆ ಈ ಒಳ ಮೀಸಲಾತಿ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡಿದ್ದು ಈ ಅಜೆಂಡಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಬರ್ಬೇಕು. ಜಾತಿ ವಿರೋಧಿ ಹೇಳಿಕೆಗಳು ಹೇಟ್ ಸ್ಪೀಚ್ ನ ಅಡಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಬರ್ಬೇಕು. ಎದ್ದೇಳು ಕರ್ನಾಟಕಕ್ಕೆ ದಲಿತರು ಎತ್ತುತ್ತಿರುವಂತ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಮುಖ್ಯ ಆದ್ಯತೆ ಆಗ್ಬೇಕು. ಹೇಟ್ ಸ್ಪೀಚ್ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಮುಖ್ಯ ಆದ್ಯತೆ ಆಗ್ಬೇಕು. ನಾವು ಹಂಗೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಮಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಅದು ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಆಯ್ತು. ಯಾಕೆಂದ್ರೆ ಇವ್ರು ಮಾಡಿರೋಂತ ಕಾರ್ಡ್ಗಳನ್ನ ಎದ್ದೇಳು ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದವ್ರು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಎದ್ದೇಳು ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಮುಂದಿಟ್ಟಂತ ಕೆಲವು ಉದ್ದೇಶಗಳನ್ನ ಬೇರೆಯವ್ರು ಮುಂದಿಟ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರು. ಅದು ಇನ್ನೂ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಗಟ್ಟಿ ಆಗ್ಬೇಕು, ಇನ್ನೂ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಕನ್ಸಾಲಿಡೇಟ್ ಆಗ್ಬೇಕು. ಇನ್ನು ಹಲವಾರು ಜನ ಈ ತರ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ವಿರೋಧ ಪಕ್ಷವಾಗಿ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡುವಂತವ್ರು ಯಾರಿದಾರಲ್ಲ ಅವ್ರೆಲ್ಲರೂ ಒಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕು. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಇವತ್ತು ಇವರು ನಮ್ಮ ಜಾನಕಿ ಅವ್ರು ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾ ಇವತ್ ಬೆಳಿಗ್ಗೆ H.C. ಮಾದೇವಪ್ಪ ಅವರು ಸಂವಿಧಾನದ ಪೀಠಿಕೆಯನ್ನ ಓದ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದು, ಅದು ಬರೀ ಅದು ಬಂದಿರೋದು ಒಂದು ಸಂಕೇತವಾಗಿ. ಆದ್ರೆ ಕಳೆದ 4-5 ವರ್ಷಗಳಿಂದ ನಿರಂತರ ಸಂವಿಧಾನವನ್ನ ಕುರಿತು ನಡೀತಾ ಇರುವಂತ ಪ್ರಚಾರದ ಭಾಗವಾಗಿ ಇವತ್ತು ಅದು ಬರ್ತಾ ಇರೋದು. ನಾವು ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಸುಮಾರು ಜನಪರ ಸಂಘಟನೆಗಳು ಸಂವಿಧಾನದ ಪೀಠಿಕೆ ಓದೋದನ್ನ ಈಗಾಗ್ಲೇ ನಾವು ರಿವಾಜ್ ತರನು ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬಂದಿದ್ದೀವಿ. ನನ್ಗೆ ಇದು ಯಾವ್ದೋ ಒಂದು ಸಂಸ್ಕೃತ ಶ್ಲೋಕವನ್ನ ಓದೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಬದಲು ಪೀಠಿಕೆಯನ್ನ ಓದೋದು ನನ್ಗೆ ಮುಖ್ಯ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ. ಬಹುಶಃ ಈ ಸಂವಿಧಾನ ನಮ್ಮನ್ನೆಲ್ಲರನ್ನು ಒಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಹಿಡಿದಿಡೋ ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ಕಾಮನ್ ಪ್ಲಾಟ್ಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಅದ್ರ ಮೂಲಕ ನಾವು ಪರಸ್ಪರ ಸಪೋರ್ಟಿವ್ ಆಗೂ ಇರ್ಬೋದು. ಮತ್ತೆ ನಾವು ಯಾರನ್ನ ವಿರೋಧಿಸ್ಬೇಕೋ ಅವರ ಜೊತೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಗಟ್ಟಿಯಾಗಿ ನಿಂತು ಹೋರಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ. ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು.
Can we have a summary translation and what Saraswati said? Or
Purna is not here, I think. I also was locked out of the net.
Yeah, you were knocked out.
Fazan,
would you like to do the summary translation?
Is anybody there who can?
I think Fazan Majid, it was his question. Would you respond with a summary? Anybody who can help us?
Sorry, all of us in the same office, all our systems were logged out.
I just got one last point of Sarsi.
Yeah.
Just quickly mention that point which you said.
Yeah.
Sarsi said the work on the preamble and the which is mentioned as the work which is being now putting forward, saying that we will begin the work on preamble as an invocation in schools. Said that is the result in a sense of a longer work which has happened. It's 4-5 years of struggle where all groups, social groups across the state have been united on one point, that the constitution and the preamble is the starting point of our work. And there have been continuous expansion or spreading of the message of the preamble. And that's the kind of work we're to take forward. And the other point I got, which she made, is there's a need for all of us to come together, though we are different in our own ways, come together in our work going forward as well.
She has put that out very clearly, that what I had suggested, the working with political parties, it has already started. Okay, and she has already told that they also are presenting the data to those political parties, and it is in their horizon, and they are working on it.
Thank you so much for helping. I think, should we wrap up? Would the speakers like to add a line or add a message? Those who did not respond to the questions, would you like to come back with a brief comment? Otherwise, we'll request our General Secretary, Suresh, to conclude this dialogue. Would Murthy or Janaki or some of the others? Shilpa, was there Shilpa in the group?
I think it's been an excellent exchange. Nothing to add at this moment, except that we are looking to a very strenuous year ahead to start with, and then, of course, many years to follow as well. But I mean, just to say also that I don't think there's any one formula that is going to work in other states and so on. I think that we should be aware of. Things work differently in different locations. And I think Karnataka has shown that. I mean, it's, as I said, when I spoke, a little different from the Bengal case, and, quite different from Kerala and Tamil Nadu and so on and so forth. So each state will throw up different kinds of combinations. And initiatives.
Thank you so much, Janaki. And I think if we can do a report and show the various kind of arguments, dimensions that were brought out. Of course, it's not the whole story, but those dimensions are very critical. And from those dimensions, others can learn. And of course, each state will have its own story, and the work will be very different. We are very different. In the north, it's completely a war of perception and narrative, just completely that. I mean, today the situation is such that people are willing to disbelieve the wrestlers while the nation is with the wrestlers. But there's a lot of counter narrative, they're willing to disbelieve the wrestlers and be with the accused Brij Bhushan Sharad Singh. So we are in a more difficult situation in the north. So definitely our tools will have to be very, very different. But yet there is a lot to learn and take from here. So Suresh, I hand over the mic to you. Please go ahead.
Thanks, Kavita. Thanks, Arvind. Thanks to all the speakers for the various groups who participated. It was a very fascinating discussion to know how exactly you all individually and collectively work together to actually vote for the constitution. It's not a vote against the BJP by itself. It's not a vote for the Congress by itself. I think it's a vote to assert the primacy of the constitution, constitutional values, and the constitutional institutions. And as civil society, we have sounded the bugle that we are not going to keep quiet. I think that's a lesson and the inspiration that we get from all you Karnataka friends. And I think that's very, very important. Kavita ended it by talking about the war of perceptions. I think there was a very nice comment which was put here, which says, let's not just say hate speech beku, beda, but let's say love speak bedu. Beku. I think that was a very beautiful way to put it. I mean, not just say no to hate speech, but also say yes to love and affection. And I think that's a spirit that many of you have talked about, which we need to carry forward. 3 issues come up, and that is the reason why we started the PUCL dialogue. And I'll just take a minute on the PUCL dialogue. I think the 3 issues that have come up here is that we don't allow cynicism to overrule us. We don't allow the fact that of the enormity of the problem to come in the way of us doing what we think is right. I think that's the first lesson that comes in. Second lesson is to say that there are multiple ways of fighting for the constitution and the constitutional values, which in the present context is against the BJP. In other contexts, maybe we are against other parties, but we all look at it from different dimensions. I think there was the issue of the scorecards, which are a phenomenal hit, which is also a lesson to the other states. It's also a lesson to us in the PUCL. How do we come out with human rights scorecards from state to state? And we would like the friends from Karnataka to also help us in giving us ideas about how we can make this practical. Can we have a template? And this very badly abused word called toolkit. People got arrested because on the whole toolkit business, the BJP itself unashamedly uses a toolkit concept. Can we create a toolkit which can help people in different states to look at how they can effectively intervene in election time? I think that's the second one. And third thing is the power of collective struggle. That we may have a different, I think one of the other speakers talked about the fact that we may be walking on different paths, but when it comes down to fighting for our rights, let's all fight collectively. I think that's a very powerful message that friends from Karnataka have given. I come from the neighboring state of Tamil Nadu, and I've always been very jealous of the reality that at the smallest instant, within the same day, many times, many of you are out there in the streets showing your protest against something which is very unjust, unfair, anti-democratic. It is not the same thing in other states. But I think this is where the example of Karnataka and civil society in Karnataka becomes very important. While PUCL very strictly does not support any political party during elections, I mean, that's not our mandate. But I think on the whole issue of shining the mirror to the various political parties in terms of human rights concerns, constitutional concerns, is a task that all of us have and which we in PUCL also have. This is where the dialogues come in. I would like to just take for a minute to say that this is the first of what PUCL has decided to have as a fortnightly dialogue. We are planning to have 2 dialogues like this, open sessions in every month. We are going to try it out for the next 6 months to a year. The seed for this was laid during the COVID times at the height of the arrest of the Bhima Koregaon 16, when Stan, Swami and others had been arrested. And it was very difficult. Nobody was willing to come out and take a stand against the UAPA. Political parties were unwilling to do it. You will remember in that time after the Delhi violence, we don't like to call it the Delhi riots. It is not a riot. It is not as though there were 2 groups which are fighting each other. There was actually a pogrom against the Muslims. If you don't want to use that word, basically it was violence inflicted on the minorities in Delhi. It is in that time that we organized a series of virtual meetings. And we also had family members of many of the arrested people coming and talking during the virtual meetings. And we suddenly realized that it's a very powerful healing context and a space that was created. We continued that discussions for a fairly longish period of time. And we realized that there's so much to learn from each other from different parts of the country, which is made available through the virtual medium, which earlier could not be done because if you had to meet for all these meetings, that was virtually impossible. But now, one of the positives of the COVID period is the fact that the discovery of the virtual medium. So we thought that we should make use of the virtual medium, partly to get to know about what's happening in different parts of the country, and also to equip ourselves with more knowledge, with more information, with more ideas. So we will be starting this fortnightly PUCL dialogues every month. One dialogue will be on a contemporary issue, like this meeting today was on a contemporary issue of the Karnataka elections. The second dialogue in each month will be on a broad theme, which is very important from a human rights, democracy, constitution angle. For example, a discussion on the basic structure theory, There are people who have worked on the basic structure theory, who have both academically as also in terms of constitutionally expanded the whole notion of what basic structure theory is. In very simple terms, we would like them to tell us why, as a citizen, we need to know about the basic structure theory, why it is so important in today's term when the highest ministers of the present Modi government went out on an all-out attack on the basic structure doctrine. How do we explain this to ordinary people, non-lawyers, activists and others? Likewise, there are many other issues on which we will need to know from international law. For example, on the same-sex marriage issue that was recently concluded, how do we understand what happened in the Fowry case in South Africa? So we are also thinking of calling the judges from South African Constitutional Court to talk to us. Likewise, in Israeli Palestinian issue, people who have fought those issues there in their courts and in the court of the public opinion. So likewise, we are planning to have series of meetings which would focus on local, national and international law. So this is the broader type of a series that we are planning to conduct. All of this will be virtual. All of this will be open to all. We hope that you all will keep coming for these various sessions and inform other people also. And please do also share with us ideas about issues that you think will be useful for everybody in terms of organizing a virtual meeting. We have access to a lot of people across the country working on a wide range of issues, from cultural artists to filmmakers to writers to grassroots activists to tribal activists. The whole range of people is there, and we need to tackle. That's the strength of social capital in India, and I think it's time that we need to be able to tap into that context so that we are all both informed, strengthen each other's confidence, the fact that we can make a change and change is possible, and we will bring about that change. And thirdly, equip ourselves both intellectually, legally, socially, politically on many of these issues. So it is in this context that we are launching this PUCL dialogues, and it's befitting the launch of a long series of dialogues with the example of Karnataka and the civil society's crucial role in fighting hate, in standing up and exposing the reality that people want development and sustainable development at that. That hate is not all that people are there. It's a big, long fight. One phase has ended successfully. They are going to come back again in a renewed vigor, pushing their agenda. But the experience of Karnataka does definitely give us a sense of optimism. It gives us a space to talk about. It gives us an example to tell people, look, let's stand up and continue the fight. Thank everybody who participated in this virtual meeting. We had a fairly large number of people participating. I invite you also to be with us through the dialogues and be part of a larger collective. It does not matter in which name we participate. What is important is that we all participate in the struggle to deepen democracy, to strengthen the constitution, and to ensure that human rights is protected and is available for all people in India. Thank you very much.
Arvind, Aishwarya, any last minutes?
No, nothing other than say thank you to everybody. And we had a really very fantastic discussion, considering that we began, it's almost 2+ hours now, people are still here. So it's a great tribute to the fact that there is a value to this discussion and dialogue going forward. And thanks in particular to all our speakers for really shedding light on many, many different dimensions. And as somebody said, we only covered some part of the civil society. Many other groups which should have been here, which are not here. And we hope in the course of the dialogues to get all the other groups in as well as part of these discussions to deepen and strengthen democracy. Thank you everybody for really coming in. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Kavita, you'll have to save the chats because I think we got locked out. You or Suresh will have to save the chats.
And I'll just stop the recording.
It will save, yeah. It will save and the Facebook live.
Okay, so just saved it. So it's good. Because a lot of good discussion points came up in the chat, which we need to use and maybe produce a report or however we see it. Whatever we do with it. Yeah.
I think in the Facebook thing itself,